Let's bring in Jamie Baker, senior airline analyst at JPMorgan. Jamie, it's great to have you on. And I think let's start the conversation right there. What does the shutdown mean as you start to see more employees perhaps calling out from work, more delays at airports, more canceled flights, et cetera? What does it mean for the airlines?
Well, look, I spend a lot of time thinking about this as a passenger. I'm flying later this week. I don't want my security experience to take more time than it needs to. But as a financial analyst, it's not really something that we're leaning that aggressively into. I mean, the losses associated with this are negligible at this point, and it doesn't really detract from the structural narrative of the industry. It's also really hard to be here in New York and imagine, somebody deciding to drive to San Francisco for Thanksgiving because they're worried about the security cues. So it's definitely on our mind. Collectively on our minds, but it's not something that we're meaningfully preoccupied with.
So what are you preoccupied with when you look at these companies and these stocks?
Well, the structure of the industry. Had an investor asked me in 2018 or 2019, if I could envision a scenario where United was, approaching double-digit pre-tax margins and Spirit was not in its first but its second bankruptcy, I don't know how I would have even fielded that question pre-COVID, but it's exactly where we are today. So that's really what we're focused on, the structural shifts that have taken place at the industry level.
How much of those structural shifts are a reflection of this so-called K-shaped economy and who's traveling and who isn't?
That absolutely does contribute to it. I mean, the airlines that are, most prosperous at the moment are the ones that lean aggressively into their loyalty programs, into international travel, and into premium markets and premium products. The airlines that are struggling tend to be the one-size-fits-all, kind of in-flight experience that targets the real low-end consumer. I do think that consumer is in hibernation or in recession, however you want to describe it. So, yes, it's the upper end of the economy that's contributing the bulk of industry revenue at this point.
Do you think we're going to see more M&A come back into the sector?
That's a good question. We are focused on Spirit Airlines right now, but we're really focused on capacity. Spirit is expected to reject about half of its aircraft, and those planes are going to leave the United States. What happens to the other half, we don't really care about going forward. Maybe Spirit, muddles along. Maybe they're taken out by a competitor, or maybe you hit the wall at some point, cease operations, in which case it's game over. We don't really care whether those planes are painted yellow or they have a white speckled barn owl on the tail. We're modeling for them to stay here in the United States, so we're a little bit ambivalent as to whether further M&A takes place.
Okay. How about when you talk about capacity, how about these carriers being able to get the aircraft that they've ordered and that they're looking for?
That has been a big part of it. If the OEM situation wasn't so challenged as it has been, since COVID, there would be more airplanes flying. That would add to capacity. That would, potentially diminish returns. So, just as we were sort of fans, for lack of a better term, of the one-time pilot shortage, we are fans of the fact that even if the industry wanted to fall off the wagon and go on a growth bender, for the most part, you can't get airplanes.
So if I take this full circle back to where this conversation started, is there a point at which shutdown could begin to have a financial impact on these companies as we round the corner here on a month?
Sure. I mean, look, if there are major disruptions and meaningful cancellations, that adds complexity to an already complex business, because you're going to have flight crews that are out of position, you're going to have aircraft out of position. We don't really see that happening. I think the bigger issue is whether it impacts traveler demand. And again, I just can't imagine, turning to my kids and saying, we're not going to go on spring break this year because we're worried about a government shutdown that I think we all agree will be solved by then.
Okay.